My name is Stephen Graham. I'm passionate about life. I'm making my dreams become a reality. I wasn't always so focused. The streets and gang culture is no joke. My choices got me into trouble. Trouble which led to me being in prison for 8 years. When I learned to take responsibility for my actions, my life changed. I learned how to fight with my mind, transfer my energy. I'm now an author, filmmaker, and a health and fitness professional. Inspired by my book, I'm a Gun. I call upon our community to help me show you why it's important not to get involved in gang culture and street crime. This documentary analyses and scrutinizes gun crime, highlights the importance of black history, reflects on the hold that the streets have on our youth, and explores how miseducation is affecting our people. This is a no-holds-barred documentary. I encourage you to take heed to what they have to say.
I think guns exist on the street for a number of reasons. Firstly, really, when you look at it, as long as they stay in certain environments and they only kill certain people, the gun problem never really gets solved.
I think it's a ploy. They've been put there for us to help destroy ourselves, basically. Because I know we didn't put them there. We don't make guns, so they've come from somewhere. But on the second hand, the youths that are running around with them are not making it any easier. So it's like we've been given a tool to self-destruct. That's the way that I look at it. I mean, it's like we've been given a tool to help self-destruct.
We need to educate the children as to what is really going on, the hidden agendas behind the gun crime. Like everybody knows, we know it. Where are the guns coming from? We don't make them. They're being given to them. They are being used as tools. Unless they know who they are, unless they know where they're coming from, unless they know where they need to go, it will keep on happening. We need to have a higher level of self-worth, self-value.
One of the questions that we have to ask, for instance, is, where are the guns coming from? We have to appreciate that despite the fact that there is some evidence that some replica type firearms have been converted over the years and have been used, the vast majority of the weapons that have been used in the black community, they're coming in from somewhere. There's evidence that some of these weapons have come in from war zones, whether in Kosovo, in Europe, or in other war zones where British soldiers are coming back from. And also, guns which are basically coming from the underworld find their way into the black community.
We always look at Britain versus America because they're buddies and they behave in similar ways, but America's a bit more blatant in the way it does its thing. It makes guns legal, you can carry guns, and as long as you people in the ghetto keep murdering each other and you don't step out of your pram and start murdering rich people, we'll make guns even legal and make them very easily accessible. Here guns are a bit harder to get, but yet they still seem to pop up always in particular areas of the country and particular places.
I don't think we understand the implications of our actions, what we're doing right now. I don't think we understand it properly as a community, and if we did, we would kind of know that, these guns are coming from somewhere and they're coming to mash up our community. If we understood that the relevance around that, I don't think we'll be like using guns so frequently and so against each other so quickly.
Guns serve multiple social functions. They allow you to criminalize a group of people. They help for a society that hates particular groups of people to wipe those people out.
It's hard to kind of pinpoint one thing about gun violence in our community because there's so many aspects that actually factor into what is causing it or where it's coming from. But first and foremost, the question that I want to pose back to the people or even to the powers in charge is why are most of these guns on the roads or in the streets? Ex-police issue, ex-army issue, government issue, etc. Because without that coming from the people, how do people get hold of these guns?
What having guns and knives in a particular environment does is it allows you to say these people are really bad, they carry guns, they kill, like the police don't carry guns, like the army don't carry guns, etc. Not that that excuses it, but they serve multiple functions, because what you can do is you can criminalize the people who carry the guns without criminalizing the people who make the guns and who profit from the guns. And then in turn, those people who carry the guns are doing your job for you. They kill the very people that you hate. For a very long time, if we look specifically at black people, for a very long time in America, black people weren't even legally human. You could legally kill black people and not have to worry about nothing, right? The moment black people became legally human in the 60s, the whole 100 years after slavery, black people couldn't get a hold of guns. When white people were terrorizing them, killing them, burning them, lynching them, black people were struggling to get a hold of guns, right? The moment they became legally human, and you couldn't just go and kill black people no more, these drug problems start becoming more of an issue. Vietnam War becomes more of an issue, man getting drafted to go over there. All of a sudden, these black neighborhoods become very segregated, very poor, which they weren't beforehand. And they weren't as poor, no, they were as segregated, right? And these guns come in. And as long as the guns stay in that community and man start wiping each other out, for 30 years now, the murder rate in the south side of Chicago or Compton or certain parts of New York has been on a genocidal level. No one's doing anything about it. No one's got a problem with those guns. But if they're gonna step out of their area and go and kill someone in the wrong place, it's a problem. So guns serve multiple social functions. They allow you to criminalize a group of people. They help for a society that hates particular groups of people to wipe those people out.
It's kind of gone into a crazy state now where we do not actually value a life. That's where I think the gun crime is right now, where there's no value on a life at all, and people will not pay to shoot on for some like there's no reason.
When we're talking in this context of young people, brother, and when I say young person, it could be, a 15-year-old to a 35-year-old. From my perspective, they're not in total control. In order to be in total control, you must have a knowledge of yourself. You must know what outcomes are. You must be able to do joined up thinking in the sense of understanding cause and effect.
Like, I could be cool now and you say something and it's going to wind me up, and next thing you know, I'm standing up and I got my warhead on now, innit? But in that, I might not be able to decipher that what you actually said wasn't a diss. But I've already got my warhead on now, and I'm bringing war to you. And now you now gonna have to rise up like, oh no, I'm gonna take me for some idiot. You have to put on your warhead, and rise up to what I'm dealing with now. Now we've gone past the line, innit? I done certain violation to you, done certain violation. We have for war now, innit? Because that's the regime, that's the code, innit?
The reality is, it's happening over stupidness. And man need to check themselves before they really start doing their thing out here. Like, is this part here worth it?
It's a one-way street, really. You get me? Like, there's probably a bag of men that got into it that want to get out of it, but once you're in it, it's a bit hard to get out of it. You get me? Usually end up in jail, dead, or you're just paranoid, isn't it? You're always looking over your shoulder. You don't know who this man is. Man looking for more than 2 seconds, you're thinking it's someone you got problems with. You get me? So once you get, it's one of the things that when you get in, it's very hard to get out on it. So if you can avoid it, innit?
I think as time's gone on from when I was younger, there was more like it'll be like it's still not a reason, but there'll be a deeper meaning to why someone got shot or why there was guns in the area. Now there's guns everywhere in most places, and they're a bit more easy accessible, and people are using them for like anything. Like, oh, you looked at me wrong, I'm gonna shoot him. But the initial thing what sparked off that could have been some little idiot thing. And if you was in your right state of mind, you could have let that fly and squash that, and we could just be reasoning as big man and rearing, but instead now we're warring over some idiot thing because we've got the warhead on, so we're not in control.
Firstly, you got adrenaline running through you, you're angry, you've got probably people behind you hyping you up, hence having a weapon in your hand, so you feel like you're on top of the world, your ego, especially men, your ego trips in, so you're not going to be in the right frame of mind. Even when we have an argument with our loved ones, brother or sister or your partner, you say things you don't mean. Sometimes you do things you don't mean. It's the same kind of situation. But in this situation, you're about to take someone's life. And when you're taking someone's life, that doesn't affect just you and your future. That affects, obviously, that person's gone. That affects their mother, their father, their uncle, their daughter, their son, the mother of their child. That affects a whole family and actually affects a whole community, to be honest.
From my perspective, we're so lost, we're so miseducated, we're so lacking in a knowledge of self, a knowledge of God, a knowledge of Satan and evil, that so much of what we do, there is a scripture in the Bible that says, "Forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do." And I firmly believe that the vast majority of our people who find ourselves in these situations where we're literally responsible for taking life, we're not in total control, brother. So much of it, again, as I said before, is based on ignorance. So much of it is based on what's called the reactive mind.
So many emotions are going through that person. Fear, adrenaline is flowing, there's nervousness, there's maybe even a little, it's not positive excitement, but a negative, some sort of excitement going on. There's too many emotions going on at that time for a person to be in control of themselves, because nobody can emotionally regulate so many emotions in such a short mass. You know, like it's all bubbling inside, there's too much going on.
They're not in total control. Because the thing is, there are forces at work. Like, there's energies. We have good energy, we have positive energy, we have negative energy. They don't realize that as soon as they hold that weapon in their hand, that weapon is a tool. It also initiates a takeover. It's almost like they get possessed. They are not in control of their thoughts or their emotions. Their ego takes over. It's a negative emotion that helps them to lose control of their self. They're battling with themselves internally, whether they know it or not. They're not in control. It's almost like possession.
If you look at our gun crime and our knife crime, it's the most destructive element of our community. Man don't challenge nothing, they don't challenge the system, they don't organise themselves as an army to do anything revolutionary like protect our girlfriends or our sisters or our mums from getting raped or whatever else. It's just pure self-hatred. I see another group of black youths, I've got a problem with them, not for any particular reason. They might be from Hackney, I might be from Tottenham, they might be from Stonebridge, I might be from Church Road, and we're fighting over pieces of real estate that we don't even own, right? And so to me, there's no positive outcomes from it. It's just self-genocide, it's self-destruction.
Well, the whole postcode war thing is nuts, man. And it's stupid. I mean, like, I grew up in the era of, I guess, what I would call the original kind of like gangs things. I used to be in the Untouchables. So you had the Untouchables and the 28s. So I was one of the Untouchables, and that whole gang thing wasn't a postcode thing. It was just two rival gangs that were warring over stupidness, really. Nowadays, we've got different areas, different postcodes warring over even stupid, like silly things. Like, my son can't go to school. In theory, he can't go to certain areas. He's saying, "No, Dad, I can't go there because I'm not from that postcode." But these people are fighting over postcodes, and they don't own nothing in the postcode. They don't own the house they live in. I mean, they're renting. So what happens when they move? So at the moment, you're fighting for Hackney because you live in like an E. So what happens when you move to West London? What, do you change the postcode you fight for? Dumb.
The postcode war thing, when I was younger, it wasn't as such as postcode wars. It was more of just there was a little fights here and there. It wasn't as big as that. Like, there's got different areas. Got north, west, south, east, Brixton, Peckham. We've got different areas, but it wasn't as dramatic as that. We was kind of build a bit more unity as now. The postcode war, I think it's gone to a kind of level of extreme over the topness. It's kind of crazy. Like, they're taking it to some next level now, where a little kid from over there can't walk across the road, like, because that postcode different from that postcode. Like, it's gone to a whole nother extreme, and it goes back down to lack of education.
And that's what kind of makes man end up in these scenarios, because the manual says a man said this or done that, so the correct response is this. Pick up your thing and go and rear it. You don't really want to do it, but that's what the response is supposed to be, innit? And I feel enough man get catch up in that, and they only think about it when they're sitting down in the cell after they got their how much years, and thinking, well, why did I even shoot that boy? I don't even hate the boy that much to even got done the boy.
Gun violence, everyone knows it's not a good thing. Nobody's not going to disagree on anything, but obviously some people have got problems on the roads where they're trying to get revenge and they're trying to get this and that. But right now, everyone just needs to make money and try to chase what they really want, because gun crime, all it's going to get you in pen. And when you're there doing 30 years, you're going to think, oh, imagine if I had another chance.
In all of that anger and all of that, you know, mightiness and ego, when that stops and that goes, that person's lonely. That person's a lonely person. Trust me. That person's a scared, lonely person.
Now look, I'm sitting down for how much years? For what? And I know there's enough man, my friend them two were sitting down and they're thinking like that. They're not going to tell every man, but they're going to certain man, they're going to reason something. You know what, brethren? I didn't even mean to done my man, you know. It's a hype thing, you get me? Man was seeing red and blue, rare, and I let the thing go, innit? Mash up how much life just like that. So I think man's not in control.
There's no thinking, there's no even malice or forethought. It's just a reaction. We do the thing and then we're like in regret a few minutes later or a few months or a few years later, however long it takes for the false image, the false macho to fall away, and then we suddenly realize what we're responsible for. So to me, we're certainly not responsible. We're not, because we're not in total control of what we're doing in terms of these types of actions.
Lack of love for each other, we do not understand. We do not know ourselves. So how come, if we don't know ourselves, how do we respect someone that looks like us? We don't understand love. We don't understand none of that. So it's gone to a point where it's just kind of a mess now. I don't respect postcode wars. I always try to speak to a lot of youths and show them that, you know what, we should be free to walk wherever we want. We should be able to free to go wherever we want, especially in our own area. Definitely, you should be able to walk anywhere.
You cannot tell me that you're free, but then you can't go 2 roads down. You cannot tell me that you're free and you can't travel safely from one side of London to the other.
You should be able to go to the shop without feeling like a victim or feeling like you're going to be victimized or feeling like you're going to get robbed. You should be able to walk on the road. I think the postcode thing is a good show of the Willie Lynch kind of setup into the society to break down the divide. It's the same kind of thing where we're following the same patterns of even the slavery days. It's just got into a new generation, and that being postcode wars. It's the same theory of slavery, same thing, we're all divided.
It's heartbreaking, you know. Most of what's going on don't have to be going on. Especially in my part of town, like it don't have to be. If it was over something worth it, then I'd say, boy, it is what it is. But most of the time, it's over some joke thing. And I will call it a joke thing because the initial thing that things start off with, it's an ego trip. And I'm saying if man didn't have so much of that ego trip, like there'll be less bodies, there'll be less L plates, understand?
It's just so random, you don't even know why the person's done it, you understand? And the majority of the time is because the kids, because it's getting into younger and younger hands, like the people in control of the guns are getting younger and younger, and they actually don't know what they're doing, you understand? So that's what's making it so, the attack so kind of like scatty and sporadic.
It's kind of gone to a nonsense attitude that we've got now in our community, and the guns are just everywhere, and it's kind of like, in a way, it's kind of mashing up our own community.
I personally believe it's a situation where a lot of our youth now are scared to go into different ends or different communities, different streets. Why? Because they're scared of being jacked or mugged or literally killed, some of them.
It used to be old people getting buried when I was growing up. I go to a burial, a funeral, and it was old people getting buried. Now it's young youths.
And so to me, it's got to a stage now whereby it needs full community attention to destroy this wicked mentality that's come up amongst our community.
Well, the thing is about knife and gun crime in our community, particularly, is that you look at it, right, and you'd have to say, again, we came to this country, our grandparents' generation weren't really stabbing and shooting each other. At that point, more the criminals on the gun thing was the working class East London people like the Crays, etc., right? The reputation for clapping man was those communities. We came in, not saying no people came with criminal intentions, but we came in more on a humble trying to work, right? Now, over 2 generations, the violence our grandparents and parents experienced in this country getting attacked on a daily basis. No one likes to talk about it today. Our dad's generation, everyone had to learn to fight because teddy boys, police, everyone were on battle, right? And so it becomes a situation where the most esteemed person is the person willing to do violence, right?
We get into crime, and then we're amazed and perplexed at how easy it is that we get arrested and incarcerated, spend our lives in prison.
Our children are free thinkers, so they feel trapped in this education system because they have all this energy, this creative force that this system doesn't really teach them how to utilize properly. So it's like an outlet. They can't really make it in this world unless they do it according to how the system has set it.
Because you're actually set up. It's not set up for you to be successful in crime. It's set up to entice you into crime, to promote crime. But then when you enter into the arena, it's actually a trap. And so the prison system, the criminal industrial complex is massive. It's a massive money spinner. It's another criminal enterprise. With us as the victims of it. And so, make no mistake about it, at the highest level in the society, corruption and crime rule the day.
On another level, promoting crime is making crime look cool, making crime look sexy, giving people reasons to do crime so that it benefits particular agendas and certain elites, etc., like the private prison business or whatever else, right? Whereas creating crime, we know from hundreds of years of studying history and from sociology and psychology and all these different things, we know that certain environments breed crime, breed what we call criminal behavior or antisocial behavior. Yet governments and elites and people in power continue to take measures to make those kind of environments exist and make them even worse in many cases, and then turn around and say, look, poor people commit crime, but don't criminalize poverty, don't criminalize the situations that create poverty. So creating crime is creating the conditions that are going to breed crime. Then you in turn promote crime back to that same group and tell them that they've achieved something by committing crime, and then you benefit from them committing crime however you cut the mustard. Because if it's on a road level, what does everyone really think? The drugs just magically get in the country? And even when man get caught, what happens? If you're a roadman and you get caught with how much stash, they tax you, you know, and they take basically a portion of what you've earned or all of what you've earned, they confiscate it, goes back into the state's coffers, so they win that way. And then on another level, who makes all of the guns? It's not people on road making all of the guns.
And so we shouldn't be surprised today when we see that their number one industry is to promote crime. It's to promote people into crime and punishment. You know, we live in a society, brother, which is so contradictory. Because on the one hand, they make the vehicle to travel at 130 miles an hour, but then they make the speed limit 70 miles an hour. And if you go over the speed limit, then they can fine you. They make their tax system such that there are all these loopholes for the rich and the powerful who know how to do that. But for the man in the street, he literally finds himself having to, you know, maybe try and skip out on paying some national insurance or some other fee that is due in order just to survive. If the average person was to pay all the bills that they're confronted with, the chances are they'd be sitting outside of the local tube station begging with a bowl because you'd be broke. And so everybody is forced into some type of criminal enterprise just to survive.
What you're exposed to is what you know. What you know is what you're going to apply to life. What you're applying to life is how you have, is what determines the outcomes of what you get in your life. So, especially in closer-knit communities, like estates and things like that, the government have built estates in a way where they are segregated from other community groups. So you build your own community and then people start internalizing. So therefore, what they're exposed to is internal. It's not in the bigger world many times. I'm not saying all the time, but many times. So it's easy for you to fall into a certain type of role, as it were, because it's what you know. What you're exposed to is what you're going to follow. And then you've also got the media.
If you look at the society and the types of things that pass as entertainment, it's very much about crime and punishment. Mostly a glamorization of criminality and violence and destruction, etc. This is the promotion of crime.
Rap music's the same thing. Everyone talks about rappers promote violence, rappers promote violence. Rappers always talking about guns. No one says, 1 minute, who owns the record labels? Who owns the TV stations? Who owns the radio stations? And why is it artists that have got an alternative message are never going to get the same level of promotion? It's for the same reason. It's about promoting crime and maintaining the status quo. And so in that respect, the arms industry is very useful.
When it comes to the creation of crime, you have to look at the very foundation of the society in which we live in, which was created as a result of crime.
First of all, you really got to look at what crime is, because we're told crime is what goes on in the street. Yeah, no doubt there's crimes that go on, but invading a whole country and taking everything from a whole country is crime, even though that's legal.
You see, the black man and woman, for instance, stolen from Africa. You know, this is not a man robbing a bank or stealing some artifact from somewhere. This is somebody who stole the very people, the very artisans, the very cultured people, the builders, the technicians out of the East, out of Africa, and then forced us into slavery over 400 years and caused us to build their whole society. That's literally a crime enterprise, that's a criminal enterprise. The whole of the Western Hemisphere was built on crime.
Realistically, looking at the current economic climate, looking at the way this country's going politically, you know, all of the things that would need to be done to make a society more violent are being done by the people in power. You know, cutting benefits, cutting welfare, cutting back on the NHS, making less jobs, etc. All of the kinds of policies making it more difficult to go to university. The kind of policies that give people no hope, make them more likely to want to hit the roads, are being employed. It will be cheaper to send every kid in this country to private school than it would be to send the amount of youths that are going to prison. Right? So it's cheaper to give a child the best education than it is to put them in a young offenders institute. But we have a society that would rather put young people, particularly young people who ain't got no money, and particularly young people whose skin is the wrong colour, we'd rather have them in a young offenders institute than give them the best chance to compete on the world stage intellectually. And so man have to realise the trap that's out there and why that trap is set for them. So violent crime will continue to rise and continue to rise, and even if it doesn't matter, because the state will be violent. So for example, in America, even in periods where violent crime and drug crime are not on the rise, you'll see the arrest rate go up and up and up for these crimes, because they make the public believe these things are on the rise to do things like have mass incarceration.
We need to understand how much of a big money spinner the prison industrial complex is, and how many people it actually employs and keeps employed, you know, from police all the way through to the judges and the clerks and the magistrates, all the way up to the prison officials and the prison officers and the governors and the probation service. I mean, it's massive. And it's important to appreciate that all of those costs mount up when it comes to now incarcerating an individual. According to what my understanding is, that it's actually much more expensive to incarcerate somebody for a day, keep them in prison for a week, a month, a year, etc., than it is to send that same individual to a university and fully educate that university, that person. But you see, in this society, there is no genuine interest in having an enlightened, educated populace.
And all of that has criminalised a generation of young people in a mad way, and makes it much easier to just pass things like the joint enterprise law. So you have a joint enterprise law where 20 people are there, one man commits a crime, 20 men get life sentences, for example. And that is about specifically locking up so-called gangs. But hold on a minute, are they applying joint enterprise laws to football hooligans? You have to ask yourself, if they're not, then why not? If one man at a football match batters the next man, or stabs the next man, or smashes a bottle over the next man's head, are they going to send everyone who was there, who doesn't grasp, to prison with that person? And if they're not, then why not? And so, again, it comes back to the bigger agendas that are out there, that whether or not violent crime is on the rise, the society and the people in charge of the society are going to put in measures to maintain a situation of fear and maintain what they need to push forward their agenda.
The prison industrial complex serves a very good purpose for a society like this, in that it keeps many hundreds and thousands of people employed in that merry-go-round of crime and punishment. And so somebody has a vested interest in having more and more people incarcerated, more and more prisons. And of course, I'm sure you know that there's a continuous move towards more and more privatization of prisons, privatization of the transportation of prisoners, etc. And again, that's big business. And so it's important to appreciate that in the privatization of prisons and the industrial complex of prison, you know, people are making big money, and that I think in America they've already floated some of these prisons literally on the stock exchange, and people are investing big money, and they're building more and more prisons, and they're guaranteeing that the prison places in these new prisons will be filled. Just like when a man decides he's going to build a hotel, he's not going to build a hotel thinking that the rooms are going to be empty. He's building a hotel knowing that the rooms are going to be filled and that he's going to be making maximum profit. It's the same principle when it comes to building prisons. They know that they're going to have an abundance of customers.
I have to keep telling my son, don't catch up in no EJAT thing, and I make them get this criminal record thing on you. Because from they got that on you, it's easy to send you jail.
Have you ever wondered, why is it that when you are arrested that they have a car for you? There's a car waiting for you. Have you ever wondered why when you are put in that car, they drive you to a police station and there's a room for you? In fact, there's a man waiting for you, the desk sergeant or the custody sergeant, and he's got a book waiting for you. You can write his stuff in and he asks you your name, and they've got somewhere to put your property, and then there's a room waiting for you. And then there's another vehicle that comes, a big vehicle that comes, and that takes you to the court. And when you get to the court, there's a special door for you to go through. There's another room downstairs with a door and a cell waiting for you downstairs. Then later on they say time for court, and you go and there's a special set of stairs that takes you up directly into the magistrate's court, into the dock. I mean, it's all set up. You're not upsetting anybody. When the policemen are chasing you down the road, and you're thinking, yeah man, I got them upset. No, they're not upset. Their adrenaline is running, they're feeling good, because this is the most exciting part of their job, catching you. It's like going on safari. You are seen as a wild beast, a wild animal. They're literally excited because, you know, there's danger when you go after a wild animal, but at the same time, the catch, when the catch is secure, they feel absolutely happy and tremendous, and that's more money for them, okay? When they've got to be hunting you and you're hiding out in somebody's back garden and they've got to bring the helicopter out, you know, to heat seek you and whatever, that's all part of the great game that is being played. And so I always say to young people, understand that you've been set up, okay? You're not upsetting no apple cart, you're not upsetting anybody. The magistrate is not upset when he sees you standing before him in the dock, he's very pleased, okay? And the judge is not upset when he sees you, he's also very pleased. The prison officers, when you arrive at the prison, they're not upset to see you, he's very happy to see you. And those who have to give you your pillow and your pajamas and or your prison outfit, they're not upset because it's a massive money spinner. And when you are leaving the prison, have you ever noticed how they're quick to say to you, you'll be back? Because they know and they can predict your behavior. And so when you learn a knowledge of yourself, a knowledge of God, a knowledge of Satan, and when you understand the dynamics of what's going on our planet, and you can jump off of that merry-go-round of crime and punishment, and you can start to use your God-given intelligence to start doing something for yourself, then believe me, that's when you're messing up their game. When you're no longer a part of that, you're no longer being hunted, you're no longer being trapped as like an animal, then you become a man, you become a woman, and you start to do the right thing. That's when you become a successful person, and that's when you start to bring down that system of corruption, that system of injustice, and that system of crime and punishment.
All research has shown us that there's a direct link between education, or sometimes what I call the lack of education, and the crime. that's been committed.
Dumb. Like, I talk to some of these little kids and they're like, yeah, I was in pen. They use it like it's a calling card, like it's cool. It's cool to go jail.
They need to have a sense of direction so that they can come out of that criminal mentality and know that the force that's working within them, that's driving them towards that, they can use it to something more better.
These young boys and young girls out on those streets knew that they are directly related to God, that they are the original man and the original woman, that they're the mother and father of humanity.
A lot of the kids are, one, not educated enough and you don't give them enough aspiration, you understand? Because if you're not educated in even reading and writing, it's true, when you sit down and think about it, what am I going to do for the next 10 years? How can you think about doing anything? Because everything has to do with education. You have to be of some sort of level of education to go forward in life.
Because the education has not been put in place for us to become a product of our education. So we're not products of our education, we're products of our estates, whether that's guns, drugs, pimping, whatever we can, we're products of that instead of being products of knowledge and education.
If someone's growing up with a lack of education, especially lack of education of who they are, their genius and their power, then obviously they may go back into this world, okay, thinking that, you know what, there's no hope. Boy, you know what, I'm gonna have to just make money the only way I know how to make money. And we don't want that, man. Each one of those young brothers who are in prison today, brother, are absolutely future geniuses.
I got brothers in jail who shouting me out like, yo fam, they're doing L plates, you know, gone for a minute. But they be like, they got their degrees and they got qualifications that you got to go uni to get. Word of a lie, I'll be like, alhamdulillah, brother. That's good news, fam. Like, I'm glad that you've achieved that. The only part I'd say, it's not even the only part I'd say, the big part I'd say why I get stuff at the end of that conversation or whether I read that letter come off that phone is that I think to myself like, my crud boy that was on the crud on roads, like, he's gone jail and achieved so much education. Like, imagine if he had stopped his crud for a minute and done his stuff on the road and got those qualifications on the road. His whole thing would be different.
Malcolm X actually said the greatest leaders in our community end up in prison. And why is that? Because they lack the knowledge of who they are, their potential, and what they can achieve from a very young age onwards.
The word education comes from the Latin root, which is educo, or to educe, meaning to draw out of the individual that which is inherently by nature within the individual. So real education is to draw out from the human being that which has been deposited within the human being by Almighty God Allah, not to impose things and push things into the human being like the knowledge of 1066 and all the rest of this stuff, useless information that is of no benefit to the individual young person.
They need to find a way to make school more interesting to us and make us more interested in coming and sitting down in the lessons and doing things, innit? Because without that, the same cycle that was going on in my day, and I finished school a long time ago, but the youth them still doing the same thing and catching up in the same thing. Worse, they're selling drugs and making money on the side, some of them, not all of them.
And so certainly there is definitely a connection between the lack of education and violence and crime.
Looking here at Britain, we again talk specifically about African Caribbean people. When our grandparents came to this country, if you had a criminal record, you couldn't get in the country. So that means in the 50s, when everyone was coming over from the Windrush, there were black people here before that, but that's another story.
In our community, we have been miseducated and we haven't been taught certain things, even about ourselves, and we haven't been taught the importance and value of ourselves, of family, of community, and certain knowledge has been hidden away from us, so we don't understand a lot of things.
See, as an historian, you know, one of the first things I've done was actually looked into that first generation of Africans or Caribbeans that came to the UK roughly in about 1940s, early 50s. And when I've done my own personal research, it blew my mind.
These youth don't know their history, and because of that they're lost. They don't know the struggle that a lot of black people went through to get to where we are today. Our forefathers, what the mothers have gone through. And if they did, half the things they're doing, out of respect, they wouldn't even do.
They didn't just go to the Caribbean and say, look, anyone come over to England, the streets are paved in gold, come and help us build. they took the cream from the Caribbean.
When our group were coming over, if you were a criminal, you couldn't get in. So how is it in 2 generations, we've gone from these people that came in with a certain amount of hope, certain amount of vision for the future, certain amount of wanting to look forward and actually believe in Britain's propaganda that it was going to be a better home for their children.
They came here with that 5-year plan, but obviously 25, 30 years, they're still here. Now, what has changed now to now we see the young brothers on the street with the so-called thug mentality? You see, they're children of the great ones. They were brought up in the UK with the UK education system. And I don't think the system was really catering for those young black brothers and sisters who went through that system, the first generation went through that system, because the UK weren't ready. And the schools weren't teaching them to become leaders like their mothers and fathers. In fact, many of that generation, and I'm a part of that generation, when we went to school, we didn't actually find that we fitted in British society. There was no knowledge of who we were. There was no knowledge of what our parents had accomplished and the type of people that came from the Caribbean. So therefore, we were literally rejected, to be honest with you.
This system does not educate our children to know exactly who they are and the power that they contain within them. That life force energy, that divine creative force that helps them to create, to procreate, to make the best, to build, to have ideas, and to be able to utilize those ideas for the benefit of the community.
And in that feeling of being rejected, I can personally say that I had no high expectations of myself. I had no belief what I could achieve. So you know what? If mum and dad ain't teaching me who I am, because they're too busy working, if the school system's not teaching me who I really am and the high potential I can achieve, and if no one else is doing it, but yet, you know what? I see the hip hop videos, I see a reflection of myself. I see the dancehall videos, I see a reflection of myself. I see the films where we are not really achieving anything in these films. We're the pimps, we're the hoes, we're the bad boys, we're the gangsters. But at least I can see myself. And when I see myself in this arena, then what am I gonna do? I'm gonna manifest that reflection. You cannot be what you cannot see. And so we had a generation that didn't see themselves as being doctors, chemists and sharp. What do they see themselves as? Street, ghetto, thugs. And therefore they're going to reflect that, and that's what we're seeing today.
What does that do to you when you think being a young black man is about going to prison, is about being rogue, is about killing other black men? It's become so normal now that man can even boast about it in songs. And I say to people when I'm working with young boys, I say to them all the time, okay, let's put it like this. My mum's white, my dad's black, right? When I used to rap, you know, nigga, 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 no one had a problem with it. No one even challenged me. One person challenged me. If I started rapping about killing honkies and crackers, what do you think the consequence would be? And you know, every young black boy I've asked that question to said to me, no, you can't do that, bro, it's racist. And I'm like, hold on a minute. My mum's white, my dad's black. You can't say I hate white people. My white mum raised me, right? But if I rap about murdering white people, that's racist. If I rap about murdering black people, that's just cool. That's just the way rap is. So it shows you there's a certain amount of black self-hatred that feeds into why we're so willing to be violent towards each other, but so unwilling to use that violence in a way that might be more productive.
This system is not going to help them to do that. This system doesn't teach them to do that. This system doesn't educate them away from that. It's just a robotic system that's trying to create more robots to uplift this mess that we have here.
And even men I know that have been deep in it, when they come out of it, they can see that very clearly, the way the hatred. My brother Jaja So said to me once, and it stuck with me, he said, when I was 15, I believed if I didn't go to jail, I wasn't a real black boy.
When I was young growing up, I couldn't wait. I was like, yo, I'm going to prison straight. I remember being young. I just thought, I'm going to school, I'm going to rob loads of people, and I'm definitely going to go to prison, without a doubt. I knew I was going to prison. It just was about like when I just knew when I was young, like I'm going to prison. Yeah, that's normal. That's normal. Like it's standard. We all go. My dad went to prison, my mum went to prison, my uncles went to prison. Yeah, it's my time. It's like pass the parcel. Just wait for my time to come. That was cash. I'm saying that's just how we grew up, and it's like a lost mentality that we're living in.
When I first found out, my pops had been in prison, I now wanted, he went Feltham, innit? So I now wanted to go Feltham and see what that's all about, innit? See if me can handle it, innit? Yeah, man, I got jail. But you see, when I got there, I wanted to go home. The thing there was, it was too boring. It's a waste of time. It's not nothing to say a good thing that when you're there, you feel you're mixing up with people that you would never mix up with in your life, and bang up with certain certain people, certain old 50 something year old white man that I would never cross paths with in any walk of life, innit? But me and him's now living together in this tight bathroom size room, and we have to converse and we have to get along because we're in that, and in the next couple of months they're going to move him out and bring in the next man. I have to get used to our next man now. We have to shit in the same room. I have to smell my man's shit every day. I have to smell my shit every day. That's one thing I couldn't, you get me? That's one thing, no matter bird I did, no matter how many years through I'd been or how many different birds I'd done, that's one thing I could never get used to. Having to shit in front of man. You get me? Them times when my belly's cutting me and man's there watching, he's watching his EastEnders and the toilet's just right there, sir. Now me now have to go in there and go pebble dash up the toilet in front of the man. I stink up this, he have to do the same thing. I can't get used to that.
We're stuck in that mentality that thinking prison is good because what we've seen around us. You don't hardly see growing up. You don't hardly see a man say, "Yeah, come on." Joy says, "Yeah, don't go jail." You see a man come out and just getting pure ratings. So you're thinking, "Yo, that place don't seem that bad. If I go there right now, I might up my reputation." And that's how we've been going up, baffled and lost, misguided.
They use this go in jail thing like it's some kind of calling card or give them some kind of stripes. I think a lot of these youths nowadays think by go in jail, it's almost like it's a, how can I put it, like a sign to say, yeah, I've reached a certain level in the street code. It don't mean nothing. It either means you're stupid and you got caught, or away from that, it means you're doing something wrong. It's not something to be proud of. You know what I'm saying? It's not something to be proud of. Why would you be proud to say I'm in jail? That's ridiculous.
Prison's a joke thing, innit? It's a joke thing on the read. Bare tuna and noodles and then rubbish there you eat like it's good food, and nah man, it's a joke thing. And you mess up your life anyway when you come out. You can't get no job, you can't do certain things. Your license has to be spent a certain amount of years before you can go for certain jobs. See, was that that check thing where you have to do for most jobs and all that?
I'm trying to tell man from now, like, all of that, don't get me wrong, you go jail and you get your qualifications, good on you, brother. But I'm saying, imagine if you like done that on road, because you've already proven to yourself that you're capable, because you've done it, innit? But I'm saying, imagine if you've done that on road, and man, them that's on road, that's seeing that raw, like, crud on the block are capable of getting their education to the highest maths, you know?
Longevity is not going to work out for you, but the kids don't think about that. The kids only think about today, getting through today, and then tomorrow and this week. You understand? They're not thinking about years ahead and the repercussions that it will have on them. Understand? Like, hence criminal record, hence people, you doing something bad to 10 people. Those 10 people, then throughout your life, you can't bump into those 10 people. You can't bump into 5 of them, definitely. Because 5 might allow it, and then 5 will want to do something to you. You understand? And then you get to the bit of, I can't go here, I can't go there. You understand? So, education is a main part, is one of the main parts, I think.
You know, there's a scripture in the Bible that says, "My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge." And so there is a destructive feature that accompanies the human being who is uneducated.
It's just what we see. It's again, go back to our environment, what we see in our families. We see everyone going to prison coming out. You see a man, your uncle or someone go to prison, come out hench, and everyone giving ratings. Yo! Big man, you're like, yo, my man's got muscles, my man's hard, my man's getting his new car, he's got a sexy girl, like, raw, he's got ratings, and you just see that as, yo, that looks like a good thing. That's how lost we was as a people, and everyone grew up in that cycle of seeing that. So we're thinking, you know what, prison's a good thing. Until we go there, they go there again, then you see, then you start getting longer sentences, and you start feeling the impact, you start losing your family members, losing your girlfriend, you can't see your kids. Then you think, whoa, wait there, this is not actually as good as it's cracked up to be. Like, this is not even, this is a serious thing. Like, right now I'm just getting older and older, and that's when you start realizing that, you know what, this is not a joke, this is serious. Like, and you start thinking differently. It forces you to think differently. Like, it makes you read a book. Certain man go to jail, they never read a book. When you're in that cell for 23 hours, you think, you know what, that book over there looks alright. Let me pick up that book.
There is a certain type of hype with being seen as you've been to prison, innit? Now you go to prison, you've got the badge, you can come out and say, yeah man, I'm on this thing, I've been in jail, want this thing, rude boy. But most man that's spent most of their time in jail here, they tell you they wish they never done that, because you can't get none of them time back. I've done bare years in jail. I wish I can get that time back. I missed out on bare things.
When I work in the prisons and whatever, okay, one of the first things I ask many of the young brothers or sisters that are in the prison, okay, how many of you were expelled or suspended or maybe even left school without any qualifications? And you find that there was a direct parallel to their youth days or their days in education and how they ended up in prison, okay?
The way they're taught to teach us, i.e. you come from a poor background, you're black or whatever, the school system teaches that we're disruptive. So they kind of deal with us accordingly to that, innit? So a lot of kids find themselves getting picked on by certain teachers when certain disruptions are going on in the class, they get singled out and things like that. Teachers are a lot more harder on them. So then when that starts happening, you start saying forget going to school because it's not fun. Then you find yourself bunking off and doing other things, playing arcade and rare, but then you need money to put in the arcade thing. So where are you going to get money? This is how it started off with us, innit? Then we started foiling machines and getting like free games and all of them type of things. Those type of things are criminal acts as a youngster, but it's fun to us, innit? We're out there. The objective is to get to play the thing, innit? But we can't afford it because no money not there for that. So we foil the thing, innit? And then we start realising, hold on, you could foil the rest of these machines and get money back. Next thing you know, we're out doing that week in, week out, week in, week out, weekend. We have a little money in the pocket. And that just started off from a little bunking off from school, innit? Because school's not interesting to man.
We mostly get kicked out of school and we end up on an estate, and we're just going with whatever our environment is pushing or involved in. We are connecting to that straight away. So that's where the education has a serious part to play, especially in our community.
And education, again, we need to be clear about that because oftentimes we think of education as going into these schools which are out there currently, but in reality, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about going into the British school curriculum, because quite often what that does is actually miseducating our young people.
But why they're not feeling it? I know why I weren't feeling school. The teachers, they used to victimise me, innit? I was in a white boy school up in Harrow, Salvatorian College, 3 black brethren in my year, you know. They get me, and we're spread out amongst each class, so I'm only black brethren in the class, you know. Anything going on in there, my name's getting called up. That much time I got suspended from school, till even my mum had to say something, I'll go on up there, sir. But it's their curriculum teaches them that black boys are disruptive. So that's how they deal with me straight away. And then because they're dealing with me like that, I got no choice but to play into their hands and start being disruptive then, innit? Then I'm trying to get myself kicked out of the school, so I'm being disruptive on purpose. But on records, it's just saying I'm a disruptive youth. They're not saying why I'm being disruptive. I was singled out, so I started playing the bad guy at school. And I'm sure a lot of kids are going through that right now as well, innit? They're getting singled out, so they play the bad guy, they play up to it.
That's why they need a new paradigm, a new education mindset that can take them out of the streets and put them back into palaces, because that's where their ancestors came from, kings and queens.
But I think now we're kind of changing, where you've seen a lot of men them come out and they've kind of put their stories out there and they've kind of changed their life around, and you must see that saying, yo, prison ain't even a joke, you know, like I don't want to go to prison. Now there's youth now saying, nah, I don't want to go to prison. Like it's different from our time. We were saying we want to go to prison. Now youth say, nah, I don't want to go to prison. So we was just a lost community.
We need more of those cats, innit? We need more of those cats that's gonna achieve their stuff on the road. Understand? If man really wanna say that they're gonna make this empire, like you need legal money. Understand? You need legal money, and for you to start turning that legal money, bruv, you gotta know where to pull it. You gotta be educated. And I'm trying to say, enough of us stay on the road and do what we're doing on the road because we're not educated. We don't know where to go. We don't know where to put our resources or go and do this or go and do that to build the next thing what we have got.
A lot of these kids over here got life easy. Like they call themselves, they're on the road doing their stupidness and they go home to mummy at night. They got a bed to sleep in, they got a job, yeah, they're working, they got fresh clothes, but they're still on the road shotting, doing stupidness like they're poor. Half of them have no reason to be doing the things they're doing because their lifestyle is good. I can't knock a man who's doing this thing because he has nothing. So when you go around the world, like I go Jamaica, I go America, I go Brazil, and I see how poor people live. So when they're doing certain things to survive, whereas I don't condone it, I can understand it. But a man who works full time in JD Sports, yeah, and goes home to mummy, don't pay no rent, but yet wants to be on road shotting, I got no respect for that. Why? Don't need to.
A lot of the kids now that I know from the States, they can't read, they can't write. So if you can't read and write, I'm just putting myself in that particular. If I couldn't read and write, then it limits what you're able to do.
Education is the fountain of knowledge, okay? And knowledge gives rise to dreams, aspirations.
But you don't have to read and write to pick up a gun. You don't have to read and write to pick up a knife. You don't have to read and write to get in any form of criminal activity. Do you understand? So I think a lot of the kids are pressured through that, like unknowingly they're pressured through that, because when they're getting told stuff by elders, like say carry a gun or go and do this, like for me it's just like someone coming to me. I'm blatantly educated guy, so for someone to tell me to hold a gun for them, my first thing is, why didn't you hold it? Do you understand? Why are you telling me to hold it? But the kid wouldn't take it on a board like that. The kid would think of it, they wouldn't question it. Do you understand? But this is where the education bit kicks in, because I question everything. Do you understand? Anything that anyone wants me to do, I question it. And that's my right to question it. If you don't have an answer for me that I think is suitable, then I'm not doing it.
And I think a lot of it comes from, like I said, not knowing their history, not knowing the struggle that we've gone through, not knowing what some of our forefathers had to go through.
Did you know that many of the young brothers and sisters back in the 30s, 40s and 50s that came to the UK, they were absolutely God-fearing. They had to prove that they actually went and attended church on a weekly basis. They had to literally have no criminal record. They had to be conscientious. They had to be, a mentality of thrift and saving. These were people that planned for their future. These were MPs, these were doctors, these were literally policemen or whatever, okay? They had very high status in places like Jamaica, Barbados, Trinidad and what have you, okay? So when we talk about the first generation, we're talking about the cream of the crop. And when they came here, we look at some of the pictures of the cream, they literally look like kings and queens themselves.
You see, but when you miseducate young people to believe that they're homeboys and fly girls and this type of language, where now we're the B word in the dog family for the female, and you literally young boys now reversing God and turning it into dog, and that's my dog, and this nasty word now that has come down from slavery, the nigger, and so on and so forth. When we hear this language, it's as a direct result of tremendous miseducation. And so certainly, make no mistake about it, the link is solid between a lack of knowledge, a lack of education, and the commission of crime. And the number one knowledge that our people need today is the knowledge of self, who they are, and the knowledge of God. And you also need to know the knowledge of Satan. You need to know the difference between good and bad. You need to know what the real conflict in the universe is all about. And when you understand that, then you can literally choose on which side you want to stand. You want to be with God or you want to be with Satan. And you would find that these young people, they would choose life, they would choose God, and that they would conduct themselves in a much better fashion. The same miseducation that young boys are subject to, young girls are also subject to.
I don't feel like it's a culture thing as well. I feel like it's just embedded in society, full stop, all over the world.
I say that when they're younger, when they're young girls, they're in the hype, innit? And they want a guy who's got a name for himself or feels like can protect her.
I think it's like a thrill-seeking excitement type thing for some women. They like the excitement that a bad boy, i.e. rule breaker, might bring in. He doesn't conform to the norm.
Girls look at that, they see the rude boy, he's confident and he's cocky and he's got a lot to say and he's got money and he can dress and da-da-da-da. So some women would be attracted to that.
So I think that's a bit exciting for some women. There's a lot of women that kind of go for that type of guy because they don't really take no nonsense. It would seem like they're more in control of their life, when in reality they're not really, because they're doing very reckless things. But I think maybe that's what the attraction is with some women.
People are seeking, it depends on what they're seeking. So some people, some individuals, they're looking for the glamorous lifestyle, they're thinking about the money, they're thinking about the material benefits of it. But as a woman, being involved in that and not knowing the self, not knowing the power of woman, the energy, the pulling power that you have within you, your birthright. Women to nurture, to care, to uplift, to guide, to teach. There's so much more that women can be doing if they find themselves in that situation, to try and direct their partners away from that lifestyle, to show them that there's greater worth in doing something different, directing their energy in a different way.
The reality is that these girls, you know, they fall into this type of environment, this type of lifestyle, not because that's who they are, but because, as I said, the environment.
It's like you've been in a classroom. Nobody wants to sit next to the geek. Nobody wants to sit next to the geek. You want to go and sit next to the one that's funny and has always got something to say.
It's a funny thing, I always say, you look at Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Will Smith and Carlton, and no one goes for Carlton. No one goes for the nerdy, goody two-shoes. Everybody likes the guy who don't really take school serious and lives that life. So, just something that's been going on for years, really.
Girls today, you've got this whole ladette culture going on, they're competing with the guys. You've got bitter single parents, you've got weak dads.
If by family lifestyle you mean having a, you know, functioning, loving upbringing, I would say no. Most of us don't get that anyway, even if our parents weren't on the road.
If we understand how family is broken down, how discipline is broken down, how black people are disallowed to raise their children in a proper way because of the interference of government and social services, etc., the lack of discipline, and then when you understand that, you know, our children now are being raised in a very synthetic environment. They're being raised on computer games that depict violence, depict murder, depict killing. I can't remember the actual statistic, but the amount of murders that a child sees between the age 0 age and 5 years old runs into the hundreds, if not thousands, because we've been sanitized into this type of mentality.
You've always got a balance. This is the balance, male and female. Where the male are getting weaker, the women have got to become stronger. But sometimes it gets lost as well because a woman still has her place as a woman and a man still has his place as a man. And where that's getting lost in society is what's causing this confused generation. Therefore, you're getting all of this outbreak of things that are going on and no control on it because it's getting worse and worse. And the only way we're going to take that back is by taking control.
If we just look at our own environments, our own surroundings, the kids whose parents were on the roads, who were, you know, selling crack, selling weed, selling guns, in and out of jail, there's a very small percentage of the youths I know that grew up whose parents were deep in that. And even speaking from in my own family with uncles or whatever else, my dad, I didn't grow up with my dad and my dad wasn't a roadman. But looking at other people in my family and friends and circles, of course there's going to be massive problems that come with that lifestyle.
And the reality is that when you have a destroyed male, which is what we have in the black community, that leads to a destroyed female. And the females, they need companionship. They need to find a partner or a partnership in the opposite sex. And what happens is that even though many of our sisters are not often as destroyed as the male, the reality is that because we need one another, we come together. And even if the boy is, you know, living a thug life type of reality, the girl will gravitate to him because that's her natural counterpart.
There are so many effects that can implicate on a woman and her family as well, because let's face it, no one's born alone. So whether you're a woman who has kids or hasn't got kids, you've got family members, you've got siblings, you've got parents, and so it's going to impact a lot of other people, not just yourself. And this is where what people need to understand as well.
Street life and family life, yeah, I don't think it makes at all still. Cause you're not free in it to just be out with your family. Look at your sons, your daughters, you get me? Anything can happen to you at any time, so you got to think real hard and you want to just do normal shit that other people with families from that don't live the street life do, you get me? Even going shopping, you get me? It's just love. You got to always be watching over your shoulder and that. And you don't want certain things going on when you're with your family, the missus, you could them seeing them things there, so it don't mix.
When you spend your life selling poison to other people's children, and constantly in the threat of fearing whether you're going to be killed, fearing all these other things, there's no way you can really raise a stable family. And it's not about being judgmental. I've been lucky in my life. I've had things that have pushed me along a certain more positive path than a lot of people from a similar environment to me. But it'd be hypocritical of me then to be here and glorify a road lifestyle and act like it's so fantastic. When I've got a bag of man brethren of my own that are in and out of kinds of problems that would love to be in the position I'm in. Would love to have a job where they work for themselves, they do what they love, they run their own company. And they would take that any day over a lifestyle, even if they make more P than me, right? So it tells you that there's something about that lifestyle that whatever man's saying, for all the hype that comes with it, for all the attention you get, for the little bit of name and fame that you're gonna get for a little while, for the little bit of P that you're gonna get for a little while, the risk versus reward seems 99.99999 million times out of 100 ain't worth it. Dead, jail. Or what man never talk about is man end up cracked out mad because they couldn't cope with whatever they've done or whatever they've been through. You know, the story never ends that well.
But what I'd say to women is, and young girls, you have to know what you're getting into with certain guys, innit? A lot of women like to block things out, innit? Oh, he's a bad boy, he's been known to do certain things, but I'm not interested in that. I'm not watching what he's doing, innit? Girls, they will tell you that type of thing, innit? But when you're together and the police are flying down on the both of you, you can't now play ignorant to what's been going on when you've got certain things in the car, innit? And you're going to go to the police station and try and act dumb like you didn't know what's going on. And they're just going to tell you various occasions you was with the guy doing certain things. And I'm sure girls, like women, a lot of women they like to block out a lot of those type of things and think they can just go to the court and tell some story and things will be alright. But in reality, there's a lot of women that's gone and sat down for man in them scenarios there. When they've got to court, they found out that it's different, isn't it? The man's not doing what you would expect he would to do, and no one's going to sit down in prison. They have to sit down until the trial's over and it can be sorted. But I don't think a lot of women or girls think of those type of scenarios before they get involved with certain guys. If you know everything or you know what a guy's up to and he's up to certain things, you have to know that when you're with him, you can get caught up in certain things. So I think women need to learn that and make better choices. Not to say don't deal with bad boys, you can deal with bad boys, you know. You just gotta know what you're getting into. Because when the shit hits the fan, you better know the regime and the code, you get me? Because there's a code you got to follow. When the shit hits the fan, you better know that. Otherwise it's gonna be a horrible life for you.
And that's something people need to understand. It's not just about the life you're living, it's the impact that it has on the people that you care about. And if you genuinely care about those people, think about the consequences, because every action has a reaction. And whether it's negative or positive, you're going to have to deal with the consequences of those reactions. Do you understand? So, I mean, there's women who get their kids taken away from them because they don't come out of certain violent situations, or they're putting their children in a high-risk category, and therefore they're going to lose those kids because they won't come out of certain negative environments. It doesn't make sense to me.
Worse than ending up in prison or ending up in the judicial system, you could lose your life. Your partner can lose his life, you could lose your life, your children could lose their lives. There's been many instances with gun-related activity where rival gang members go into people's houses and kill whoever's there. So it could be your parents, it could be your aunties, it could be your uncles. Everybody that's around you gets involved and gets drawn into that. There's a lot more at play, and there's a lot more to think about than the glamorous lifestyle and the money and what you're getting from it materialistically.
You can end up in abusive situations because of that. Women end up being raped because they're around certain types, certain environments. If you expose yourself to an environment, you have to take responsibility for what happens in that environment. So you can't turn around and say, it's not my fault.
Boy, you gotta be prepared for everything that comes with it, really. You know what I mean, car? Like you say, innit, like, it affects if you're with someone and certain things are gone, it's gonna affect you, innit? If he ends up getting killed and you've got use for him, you're gonna be a single mum, innit, more or less. Ends up going jail for life, you're probably gonna be a single mum. You know what I mean? So it's the girl has to know what they're dealing with, innit? You get me? Like, if obviously you can't help who you fall in love with, you get me? But if you're actually just intentionally just going out looking for a certain man because you think he's lived this certain lifestyle and it's gonna help you out, and it's easy option, innit? You get me? Especially obviously when you're from the hood as well. Like, it's hard, innit? It's hard around here, innit? So girls would probably, I can see why they would, innit? Go for a man that's on the road car. Seems like he's making the money and certain things, but there's a lot that comes with it, innit? So the girl have to be prepared for that if that's what they want to do. You get me?
I don't think it's just a matter of just, yeah, we all want a rude boy. I just think as a woman, you know, to be a woman's hard. Don't get it twisted. Yeah, women, we have a lot to deal with. So sometimes we just want to feel looked after and, you know, nurtured. And it's for a man to do that for a woman and to make her feel nurtured and loved without having to be a rude boy, without having to go and take anyone's money or kill anybody or make anyone feel less than themselves. You know, so I think men have a lot of responsibility in that. And then maybe ladies will follow and they won't want a rude boy.
Women generally tend to follow men. It's not normally found the opposite way. You don't find boys following girls, you'll find girls following boys. And so many girls tend to find themselves, if they find themselves with the wrong partner, then that wrong partner can lead them into all manner of misdeeds and activities which is really not conducive to their feminine gender. It doesn't support them, it doesn't grow them, it actually degenerates them.
Women, really, we have a responsibility, as do the men, but for us, we have a lot of power to actually guide our men away from that level of activity. It's not about the glamorous lifestyle. It's detrimental. It's detrimental to the soul because you're putting yourself in that negativity. That negativity consumes you. Money grabbing. What about your children? What happens to your partner? Your partner gets taken away by the judicial system. You get involved in the judicial system. Social services get involved with your children. Your children are left without parents. It's just destructive to the community on a whole. And as women, we have a bigger role to play.
But as I've noticed, I see a lot of girls, as we're getting older, they kind of keep themselves distant from certain road, man. You get what I'm saying to you? Because really, can't hold on to the majority of us. If a man goes to jail, then what? You know what I'm saying to you? Is that girl going to be there by his side for his whole sentence? No. So they might go find the next bad boy. They might decide that this having bad boys thing ain't really for them.
If it's someone that's the father of your child, I do believe you should stand by that person, but in a positive way. If they are involved in gun violence and you can help them get out of gun violence, be that positive role model. Don't let that man feel under pressure that he needs to bring in, you know, a certain amount of money every day, so he has to go out in the street and hustle. It's patience, ladies. Sometimes we don't have patience. Sometimes we want things when we want them now, but you can't have everything now. Things take time, and to build anything, to build a career, you know, to build life, to build a home, you know, we don't just move into a home and our home looks spangling. It takes us a year or so to fix it, and we have to take that into consideration as women. Sometimes we do put too much pressure on a man. Don't get it wrong, don't get it twisted. A man must play their role and look after his family, but just like ourselves, it takes us time to do things, the same as a man. It takes a man time to do things. If you feel like he's going down that wrong road and you feel like you could be that backbone and support him and not just be in his ear, then ladies, I advise you to do that, because the best thing you could ever have in this world of sin is a family. You raising your children and that man raising his children in one home, in one unit.
It might be hard work. We might see that the system ain't set up for us to progress in the way we want to, but we have to understand we're sold the road lifestyle as if it's really rebellious, like, yeah, I'm against the system. But we just got to use our common sense. If drugs have been getting in and out of this country consistently for the last 50 years, clearly whoever's controlling the borders is not very good at their job. They managed to stop explosives and terrorists and all the other stuff coming in when they need to, right? But you telling me there's a constant supply of drugs and it's just because roadmen are so clever that they managed to smuggle drugs backwards and forwards from Jamaica? Do me a favour, will you? If you know the history of this country, you know this country fought 3 wars with China to force opium on China in the 1800s. And so it shouldn't surprise you that after the invasion of Afghanistan, heroin production shoots right back up. And anyone who's on the roads know there was a drought before 2001. There was problems going on. You start looking into it, you realise the man them in Afghanistan was burning down the poppy farms. Now Britain and America control Afghanistan. Heroin production's right back up, and Afghanistan's producing the majority of the world's heroin. It doesn't take a genius to put together what's really going on here. And I suppose it's for us as people who can relate to the young people in and out of this lifestyle, to explain to them why the society tells them, yeah, be on the roads, yeah, it makes you look really cool, yeah, really great. Go and buy, you know, French champagne, Italian clothes and German cars, and look at who all of that makes richer. Whereas if you go get a job, save your money, build your own business, take care of your own community, you'll be in a much stronger position, much stronger family unit to really affect change in a society. And so I would say that, yeah, the road lifestyle is definitely a key part of the way of breaking up families. What does it do to a community when everybody, all of us, have got family or friends in jail? What does that do to your community when that's the normal situation, that everyone knows people who are in prison? You know, and many of whom have got kids and many of whom are doing big numbers. So the two things are not compatible at all.
Gun violence is affecting everybody. It doesn't matter whether you're the person who got shot, you know someone who got shot, you know someone who knows someone who got shot, or you just heard about it on the news. It affects every single person within our community, because whether it's because it's raising taxes, whether it's because there's more police on the streets, whether it's because it's actually someone that you actually know and you're personally affected by that, it is going to affect, somehow or another, it's going to affect every single person in our community and extended communities as well, because as a country we've got to go back to the old school. My belief is that people have to take responsibility.
At the end of the day, we're all losing. Man riding life in jail, man doing life in the cemetery.
With the road right now, we can see that we're living a destructive life, and we're bringing our community down with the whole gun and knife violence and the whole disrespect to our women and the whole not seeing our children. We are just living, we're going down a destructive cycle, and we have to break it. And the only way we're going to break it is if each of us individually break it in our own little circle.
Too many people don't take responsibility, because we will walk past so many situations or overlook so many situations when they maybe just affect us on a surface level, or they just touch on, you know, oh, we saw a shooting on the news. Okay, it was on the news, it's not my life. But when it's your neighbour, when it's your son, when it's your daughter, when it's your family member, that's when you want to kind of, you know, people want to start taking a stand. So I think really and truly our communities, it affects our communities, but bigger than they even realise sometimes. So we have to take responsibility before we're feeling the pain, because most people only take responsibility for their communities and responsibility for what's going on in their communities when they feel pain. There's no point in doing it after you feel the pain. Do it before you feel the pain, because we can be the difference. We can be the change in the societies around us, but that means we've got to take responsibility, we've got to take charge, we've got to take ownership of what's going on around us.
We need to teach these young brothers and sisters in many cases to fall in love with who they are. We need to reintroduce the terms brother, sister, blood, fam. I love those kind of terms. Take away the terms dog, bitch, home, whatever you can, because then you're desensitizing yourself from that human being a person.
We as a people are kings and queens. We're leaders. We are the ones who taught this whole world everything that they know and more. We got so much more to do. We haven't even begun to exhaust our potential.
I'm not saying I've not done things that I shouldn't have done, but you know what, there comes a point in your life where you've got to wake up and kind of check yourself and be like, you know what, this and this, nah, it's not that again, innit? It's the youth them time. So that's why I set up my company, Crime, anyway, to help educate some of these youths on the road doing stupidness. For those that don't know, Crime stands for Creating Role Models in Media Enterprise. I work with ex-offenders, gang members, get them off the road and get them into films and movies and show them a different lifestyle, man. You know what I mean? It's not about running down on the road and shotting and just doing ignorant, negative things. There's no future in that. Two places you go to, though, dead, so you end up in the grave, or prison. That's what it is.
The Honourable Minister Louis Farrakhan teaches us, and I'm a firm believer in what he teaches, that we are righteous by nature, unrighteous and evil by circumstance.
But we need to turn this around. We need to let our children know the power that they have and know how important they are to us. Let them know that we love them. Let them know that we love ourselves. Look at your children, look at your community. Your community is a reflection of you. The chain is only as strong as its weakest link. So therefore, it's about love, it's about healing. We can't just keep on turning a blind eye. If we're not putting ourselves in a position to help one another, where will we be?
I would say to young people, I'm not telling no one be an idiot. I'm not telling no one let no one bag you up. But I'm just saying, let's not act like the road thing is against the system. The road thing serves the system fantastically well. And I'm not judging no one, like I said, because I've had opportunities. But at the same time, those of us that have opportunities have to spend our life trying to provide more opportunities for people in our community that we care about, rather than pretending that somehow what's going on is productive.
Some people might be watching this now, they got a girlfriend at home, you know, you've been dissing your girlfriend, you know. Sometimes you have to say, you know what, I have to man up, you know. Let me go and see my girlfriend, let me go and make things right, let's try and better things. And then we got to do that as a community and everything we're doing. We've got to take responsibility for our actions. That's what we've got to do as a whole. And that starts at home. We can all make a difference, but it's just by little changing our own personal circumstances at home, building our families, changing our structures at home, fixing your structure. I'm saying creating a better relationship with you and your kids. I'm saying enough of the man out there on the road. Bro, go and pick up your son from school random one day. Go and do something. Go and just change your cycle, change your daily cycle. Let's start changing things on a daily basis. This is what we need to do on the whole. And that's what I say to everyone. The street culture. We can still be street. We can still be credible. We can still do fancy things. We can still drive big cars, but we can do it in a more progressive manner and where we're ownership and where we're progressive with it. Not where we're coming, filling up the prisons and killing each other. That's not helping us. We can do it in a reversed way and where it's progressive and it's helping us build our communities up. So we're actually having ownership. And that's what I'll say on a level for the whole community.
I hope this documentary was empowering and leads you to inspire others. Until next time.